What's up, guys? We are back with another episode of the Kacee Show. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, and hopefully everyone had a great time with their special someone, but unfortunately there was quite a day in the news, I'll say, and it's hard to really figure out where to start. I mean, you have the atrocity in Kansas City after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, the mass shooting that occurred. We'll get more into that. Well, then you also have what's happening right now, the Donald Trump election interference case in Fulton County, Georgia. Fani Willis is currently on trial right now, and she's going to be basically asked a lot of questions as to, why are you receiving funds, paying for vacation with money that should be used for the government? Why were you stealing this? And obviously, why are you the defense attorney that's prosecuting President Trump? So we'll talk about that. And obviously, the second breaking story yesterday to the Kansas City mass shooting was the news with Russia. And, that Russia is all of a sudden this great threat with their Space Force. As ridiculous as it sounds, the American media, global media, and even Republicans have gone as far to say that this random thing called this Russian Space Force or Russian space lasers is a serious threat to American intelligence and can destroy our satellites. This just came out of thin air. But what's something else that happened right before? The border bill, or so-called border bill. What it actually is, it's sending a lot of foreign aid to countries like Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan. We'll get into that later in the show. But it's just really crazy the day that we had yesterday. It's absolutely insane. So yeah, we'll start the show in the Kansas City massacre that left 22 injured and 9 dead allegedly. We'll confirm the sources later in the show, and we'll have actual video coverage from my Twitter. We're going to scroll through the feed in a bit. But this is something that I've called for, I don't even know, for months now. I mean, I actually called it out in the 3rd episode. I called it out in the 20th episode. That we're going to continuously have shootings like this and atrocities until the mental health crisis is resolved. And it's nothing to do with gun control. Don't get it backwards, because that's what the left loves to resort to every single time. That's like when you're looking at a problem and the problem is the flower, you want to go to the root to solve the problem. You don't want to go to the petal or the stem. That's what the Democrats and the left are doing. That's their ideology. But this is a mental health crisis. Why these people did this, nobody knows. It's a serious question. It's a question of mental health and instability. Whether it was throughout their lives, in their childhood, who knows? But this is the premise of this. We need to control mental health people. We need to actually get people in the psychiatric care centers that they need. We've gone from 35 million care centers in the last 40 years to in the thousands. There's only like 35 to 36,000 psychiatric care centers and places where we can send these mentally ill people that have some defunct or disorder in their brain that needs to be stopped. It needs to be prevented from the public, and it's another catastrophe just waiting to happen. And like we're seeing here in Kansas City, like we saw in the Nashville school shooting. I mean, like we see time and time again in record numbers that we've never seen before. So this speaks volumes. Number 2, on top of the mental health crisis and controlling that and getting these kids off of prescription drugs, the second solution to this issue is implementing law and order like we've never done before. And when I say that, I'm not meaning in a tyrannical way and overreach of the justice system. I'm just saying simply locking up these violent criminals that continuously are just getting out on bail the next day. And in some cases, they're not even from the country, which is a different conversation. But I would love to see the consequence of the 3 people who were allegedly involved in the shooting and arrested, which we will show later in the show. But I really want to see what the consequence is here. Will they have a bail? Will they get out? Will it be a life sentence? Probably not. But I mean, it just shows, it really speaks volumes that by not having law and order in our country, by not cracking down on these criminals, they're just going to continuously carry out the same type of crime and indulge in other things because they feel free to do so when they're not facing harsh consequences that's going to make them do otherwise. I mean, it's as simple as that. And this goes a long way in this Kansas City situation, which we're going to show some very, I would say, dark clips. I mean, this is something that, nobody actually wants to see, but I think it's important that, my audience and everyone else out there has the ability to access this. I mean, I think we learned from observing and moving on from the next situation or the previous situation, but these are things that we need to see if we want to. And I'm urging everyone right now, you can skip to the end if you don't want to see the footage of the shooting. And it's not actually like blood and gore, it's just the situation, it's the history of it. But yeah, we're going to show some clips here soon. That'll be towards the end. But I do want to cover everything here. I mean, that's I don't want to stay on this topic too long. It's obviously very dark. So let's move on to the second topic. Fani Willis, the defense attorney who's prosecuting Donald Trump for the election interference case in Georgia, is currently testifying on stand about her involvement in taking money that was supposed to go to the government and using it for personal funds and vacation. This is the same person, same woman who is the defense attorney prosecuting a former president and current nominee for interfering in an election that he lost. And many could make the argument that he lost that unfairly, whether it was due to the media or votes. But how backwards is that, right? This person who was literally caught stealing money. And we'll show a video later in the show, but there was someone else that testified, I can't remember his name, literally said that Fani Willis did not pay me in credit cards, not debit cards. Nope. She handed me straight cash. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke that the justice system allows this to happen, and they're even persecuting someone like Trump to the levels that they are. That, to me, I think Fani Willis and the Georgia DOJ, they need to be responsible for this. They need to face election interference for this election, for interfering with the 2024 election. They're going after Donald Trump for 2020 for an election he lost. How about the one that they're interfering with right now? I mean, it's just like everything is, I don't even understand. It's just so backwards. It doesn't take anyone with a PhD or a master's degree to understand this. It really doesn't. It's like good versus evil. I mean, I don't know how clear it could be at this point. It is a witch hunt against Donald Trump. And the very people that are prosecuting him have no credibility themselves. I mean, it is absolutely absurd. Same with the Mar-a-Lago documents case. The fact that Joe Biden knowingly said on stage that he made the mistake by allowing his staffers to leave documents in his home, which again, he wasn't even persecuted for. Not a single consequence, not a single question or case. And he's the current president, keep in mind. And they don't even care. Biden, he just said, oh, well, I shouldn't be held accountable for this because I forget. Like, he literally says this in a speech. I mean, it's crazy. The justice system is absolutely absurd, and anyone who's a lawyer, anyone who is an attorney, anyone in the legal system or who has ever worked in the legal system, you know how I feel. I mean, it's very taxing on your persona, on everything. I mean, it's absolutely, what is justice anymore? It's like we're fighting every day to keep that hope of fairness alive. And how is this going to turn out? I mean, this is crazy. Will Donald Trump be charged with these 91 felonies that are pending against him? I mean, 2 federal cases. You got the case in New York. You have the Mar-a-Lago documents. You've got, obviously, the Fulton County election interference case. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. Folks, I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Communist, or Nazi. it is clear as day to see what's going on. So like I said, yesterday was Valentine's Day. Hopefully everyone had a great time with their loved ones. But on top of the Kansas City massacre, there was this absurd claim in the media that the United States is under a national security threat from Russia due to their space program. Like, out of thin air, out of nowhere. And it wasn't just one-sided, right? It wasn't just the mainstream media. Well, it was the mainstream media. It was Republican news. It was liberal news. I mean, and you even had neocons and establishment Republicans actually thinking this is real. Because somebody made it up. No claim, nothing to back it up. At the same time that this border bill is going through, that's going to send, $60 billion to Ukraine. It did pass 70-21 and it's going to the House. But think about this, right? This is the ultimate psyop of the situation. And I'm really curious to see how many people already understood this before I explain. So, like I said, it was a 70-21, currently going to the House. The border bill includes $60 billion to Ukraine, $14 billion to Israel, $8 billion to Taiwan and partners, and another $9 billion, I believe, for infrastructure. I'll have to confirm that later in the show. But the $60 billion that was going to Ukraine, so many people, I would say so many, about half of the Republicans, the real America First nationalist patriots, they were, and they are, against this bill. People like Rand Paul, Ted Cruz. I mean, people who are Tea Party, America First Republicans, and that obviously want to put the interests of us before the interests of foreign leaders who have nothing to offer us. So think about the psyop here, right? They get everyone all stirred up because, Russia, their space program, which Biden actually claimed in 2021, or rather his press secretary, Jen Psaki, claimed in a speech that the Russian space program, starts laughing as if, why would you worry about them? Because they're not a threat. Why all of a sudden out of nowhere would this be a threat? Well, I'll tell you why. Because this border bill needs to be passed. And the only way of doing that is to scare the last remaining, or that small percentage of Republicans or anyone who feels that we don't need to send money over there. It's a psyop. They're trying to put the fear into you to say, okay, we need to sign off on this bill because Russia is threatening our intelligence. They're going to destroy our satellites and disrupt our intelligence. They're going to, where is this nonsense coming from? And it was literally 2 days ago. It's not like a developing story over time. This is all after Tucker interviewed Putin. If you just pay attention to the environment and the microeconomics and just the environment of what's going on, it's just so obvious what they're doing. I mean, it does not take a PhD, doesn't take anyone to learn rocket science. I mean, it's pure corruption, it's pure bribery. It's how politics work, but it's up to individual citizens, journalists, independent journalists, people who have the ability to speak out and aren't subject to big pharma and military, weapon manufacturers. It's all these people who can corrupt you and are going to offer you money to have this narrative that's going to favor the Israel lobby. It's going to be on the globalist train to send more money to foreign aid, or use foreign aid for countries like Ukraine, places that really have no strategic benefit to the United States. The only area that's strategic in the East Mediterranean is the Persian Gulf. That's where the oil comes from, obviously. But there's nowhere or nothing that Israel or Ukraine can offer us. I mean, I would really like to hear. Israel gets the sweetheart deal on our military, 25% off that nobody gets. I mean, I don't... You would really have to sell me on why we need to send billions of more dollars, of our dollars, to foreign nations before we help our people back home. And I'll show you guys, I had a tweet the other day that It literally sums up why this is such a big deal and how not helping America, or America first, leads to just the destruction of our society. And that's exactly what's going on. We have 40,000 homeless veterans on the streets. We've got a 500% increase in children who have been referred to gender affirming care. We have suicide rates that have doubled and tripled. We have mass shootings that are up 50% in 4 years. The worst economy in 40 years, 8% interest rate, a vaccine that 90% of the people were coerced, whether they liked it or not, to take. Then we find out that it's unconstitutional. Now we're sending billions and billions of dollars to foreign nations. The southern border is wide open. We've got a mental health crisis like we've never seen, and that's why we're seeing shootings every single day at alarming rates. We have healthcare that's completely out of proportion and unaffordable to basic Americans, because when we developed the infrastructure into healthcare IT, we put trillions and trillions of dollars into that department because it was supposed to increase the ability of them to work and decrease the patient waiting time. What did that do? The average patient waiting time at the doctors has only increased when we've poured trillions of dollars into that field. The list just goes on and on and on. And we're at the point where we're self-destructing ourselves by electing leaders and allowing this disproportionate and un-American-like behavior to happen in our country. Do you think this is okay? Republican, Democrat, how can you sit here and acknowledge what I just said and still think that it's in our best interest to send billions of dollars to foreign nations? What do these foreign nations have to offer us that's going to fix our problems at home? Really? Because I've never heard a compelling argument. Every single person, I don't care what your credibility is, I don't care if you went to Harvard, I really don't care how many followers you have. It's the same thing with these pro-Israel lobbyists, that they have no backing, no reasoning. They're just corrupted by the intelligence. They're corrupted by Netanyahu and the globalist leaders that do not put America first. They're sellouts. And the founding fathers would be looking at these people today with disdain and would not respect them. And they would be looking down on everything. And there's very few America First patriots that are willing to speak up and say these kind of things. It's very risky, but it needs to be said. And I think the term America First has almost lost its meaning. And I think it's a noble cause, don't get me wrong. I still believe in it. But think about it, right? If you can say America first, well, okay, that means Israel second and Ukraine third. It still leaves open the possibility that could happen. So this is what I say. In order to free America, we need to stop sending foreign aid completely. We need to control the southern border, fix these mental health crises. We need to fix inflation. We need to stop printing, get interest rates down, cut the Fed, get these unelected bureaucrats out of office, send them home, reform the FBI, CIA, corrupt agencies that really are in question of whether they should exist or not at this point because of the harm and the detriment on the American people. These are issues that are going to cripple us in the next 5 to 6 years if we don't fix it now. And it might be less than that, right? I mean, it really might be less than a year before things go south, before things go really south. I mean, when you look at countries in Africa where their inflation rate and their crime rates are absolutely insane and they've got no government helping them, well, that could be very well us, the way that we're treating our own people and our own policies in this country, and especially foreign policies. Offering amnesty to anybody in the world, just wide open borders, disregarding the Constitution. It's really un-American, and it's unbelievable that we have gotten to this point. And that's what has really enraged me to speak up and get as much truth out there as possible to people, because I know it's being suppressed. Republican, Democrat, I don't care what it is. It's very divided. It's really at a point where it's truth versus lies, good versus evil, corrupted versus uncorrupted, paid off versus self-sufficient. And it's really starting to attract people. My tweet the other day, what I'm talking about now with how I'm claiming the Russia situation is a hoax, and it very well is. I think it's at like 350,000 views in just 12 hours on X. All because I'm speaking the truth. Because I have the guts to say this is a joke. It's a hoax. We're not going to fall for this. You fooled us enough, or not me, but you fooled the public enough. And we've realized how you're lying and the way you're doing it. We figured you out, or I have at least. So you're not fooling anyone with this garbage. It's not going to work. It's not going to work on me, people like me, the average American who has a logical prefrontal cortex that's functionable. That's all it takes. So in this tweet, Mario Nawful said, national security threat can allegedly disable U.S. satellites. Russia has allegedly developed the ability to neutralize U.S. space assets or any other type of space-based system. The U.S. Department of Defense warned in 2023 that Russia has been testing space-based kinetic and anti-satellite weapons for some time. Source, U.S. Department of Defense. Imagine that. So I responded and said, let's see here. It's no mystery what's going on here. This is a clear attempt to justify the need to send $60 billion more to Ukraine. The mainstream media consistently manufactures the idea that Putin is the greatest threat to America rather than the 10,000 illegal immigrants storming through the southern border every single day. The 100% increase in mass shootings since 2018, 40,000 homeless plus veterans on the street, 500% increase in number of children referred to a gender identity development service, and the worst economy in 40 years. Makes perfect sense. Now moving on. Kind of separate, but I just want to talk about this here. This is the migrant that was illegally in the country, assaulted
separate
the police
Macy's
officer in New York.
robbery case.
Guess what? He gets out on
suspected
bail,
of being involved
goes
in a
assaults
security
someone
guard
else at a
beatdown.
random restaurant.
The security
or
guard
store.
outside Macy's was punched and kicked. Darwin
Macy's.
Gomez was one of those beating suspects a judge initially freed without bail after the beating of two
I mean, look at
NYPD
that.
police
That's
officers in
absolutely
Times Square earlier this month.
It is on
Fox News Alert now breaking.
It is on Alejandro Mayorkas for not securing the border. It's absolutely insane. So here's the footage from the Super Bowl shooting parade in Kansas City. The original video, you could see that went public. Everyone's running around like crazy. Pretty nuts. Very scary at first, not really knowing. I'm sure I can't even imagine being there. So basically, this is the statement from the Kansas City PD at first. At the conclusion, the rally, there were shots fired west of the Union Station, near the garage, and several people were struck. So that's kind of the idea there. And then a little separate, this is a video of, let's see here. We'll skip that one. Let's see. Here's a witness that described the
I ran into the garage with everybody else, and in the garage it sounded like they were securing Union Station because there was maybe some return fire from someone else, is what I heard, but I don't know if the police even knew at that point. It was a lot of confusion. I thought it was fireworks. It sounded like a...
And we have another update. White House is clearly monitoring the situation. 1 dead, 9 injured at the time. Then there was live footage at the time from a reporter. You just hear noise in the background. Just different angles of this situation. And the mainstream media will not show you this. They'll show you glimpses, but really diving in and breaking all this down for you to decide what should be done here. Now, what you think of this. And here's the 3 suspects that got arrested. 3 black kids.
No way, bro.
Wearing Kansas City Chiefs jerseys. Little strange. Motive not really known at the time or now. And then this is actually one of the suspects that got tackled by a group of bystanders or Good Samaritans, Chiefs fans. Literally tackled one of the guys. Hats off to that man. Buy him a beer any day. Yeah, there's actually a video. We have video of him talking. I think we'll pull up here shortly. But yeah, that was, hats off to that guy. Let's see here. We have, oh, yeah, it's a little separate incident. Another shooting occurred in Florida. It was actually near Palm Beach. I was literally there 2 days before the incident occurred. I mean, just in perspective, I mean, it can happen to anyone. I was just lucky I was in the right place at the right time. There you have it. At the same time, the media probably didn't cover this much, but it's good that we mention it. So yeah, we also have, let's see, moving on here. More footage from the atrocity in Kansas City. Police Chief Stacey Graves said, "We have recovered firearms. I don't have a number for you or a caliber. We have recovered firearms. At least 22 people had gunshot injuries and had some of the victims were children, according to the city's fire chief. And right now, they do not know the motive, so we're still waiting for that. And let's see if there's anything else we can go over here. Biden, quite a bit of posts yesterday. Oh, here we are. So here's the guy that I was talking about that was one of the Good Samaritans and Chiefs fans that tackled one of the suspects. Here's what he had to say.
Running. And out of nowhere, I heard that guy hollering, so I'm just like, okay, well, I'm right here, and I didn't even think about it. It was just a reaction. I didn't hesitate. It was just do it. So I went to go tackle him, and another gentleman did the same thing. And as I'm tackling him, I see his weapon either fall out of his hand or out of his sleeve because he was wearing a long jacket or like a Carhartt. So when I seen that hit the ground, I'm like, oh, we got to take this guy down. And so, like I said, I did, and another Good Samaritan did, and we held him down.
All right, so here's a breakdown of the so-called border bill.
Capitol Hill.
It's going to be a lot of foreign aid
learn
sent to other
what some of that money would
us,
buy, and what that process
to Ukraine,
is. Here
$14
again
billion
is
to
Chief
Israel,
National
$9.1 billion to Gaza, $8 billion to Taiwan and partners,
The
and guess
National
what?
Security
$0
Supplemental
to Americans. It's complete garbage and about as America last as it gets. So there's that. Let's see. Let's go to the post about Afghanistan. That's a pretty good one. Pretty insightful with what's going on right now. Scroll down. There you go. All right, so the U.S. government spent 20 years and an estimated $2.2 trillion, taxpayer dollars, in Afghanistan. For the Taliban to basically take everything, the Biden administration strands 100,000 soldiers and American expats. It's no wonder that China, Iran, and Russia don't trust us anymore, and they're trying to create a BRICS currency, alternative to the U.S. dollar. Here's my viral video. Take a look at this, 300,000 views, basically calling out that this is a Russian hoax.
So here's my personal take on the so-called Russian space lasers that everyone's talking about in the news. It's a complete hoax just to justify more spending for Ukraine. Just think of the timing. I mean, come on. You can't really get duped into this and expect people to actually believe that. I mean, logically think about this, right? They want this bill to get passed. It's not getting passed with reason. And what better way to scare people into thinking something is actually about to happen than to proclaim that some Russian space force, which the Biden administration deemed not to be a threat in 2021, is something that's going to be detrimental to the human existence of America, when we all know it's just a hoax. So here's my personal take.
See, that's the premise of this. It is all just to scare people into wanting to fund Ukraine. This is Kremlin calls space nukes a story trick. So yeah, basically what I said, literally, Russia goes and says the same thing the next day, that it was all hoax from the United States to try to scare people into wanting to fund Ukraine. It's so obvious what's going on there. It's such a joke. But yeah, no, this is an interesting time. And like I say about every episode, this election is going to decide everything. And I don't know, it's pretty wild where we're at today. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. We're going to have some more content coming here soon. Like I said, we traveled to Florida. We have an interview that is going to be released in a few months from now for legal reasons. But yeah, we've got a lot more content coming ahead. We're going to be having a guest on next week. He's an entrepreneur from Netherlands. So he's going to be talking about how younger people are making money in ways that you couldn't before. So make sure to tune in. We'll be live then next week, and we'll have more on our Twitter feed. So check out at KCR Allen on X and at Kacee Allen Show. You'll find everything there, and we'll see you next time, guys.